What's up guys, welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to be looking at Reddit stories.
My ex-girlfriend came back after 10 years and called me a liar when she found out I had already moved on. Back when I was 14, I fell hard for this girl in my class. She was the type who'd laugh at all my stupid jokes, even when they were at her expense. We were best friends first, which made it even better when she finally agreed to give us a chance. After months of courting, she said yes. We dated all through high school, and honestly, it felt like we had our whole lives planned out. Everyone called us the perfect couple. Her parents loved me. My parents adored her. It was the kind of relationship that made you believe in soulmates. Then graduation happened. She told me she needed to move to the capital city with her sister to attend college. I was staying back in our province for university. I told her we'd make it work. That distance didn't matter when you loved someone. She agreed, and for the first few months, we talked every single day. On our 4th anniversary, she called me and said something I'll never forget. No matter what happens, wait for me. I promise I'll come back. I told her I would wait forever if I had to. Then just like that, she disappeared. Her phone number stopped working. Her social media accounts went completely dark. I thought something terrible had happened to her, so I tried reaching out to her friends and family. That's when I discovered she had new accounts, just not ones that included me. She had ghosted me, completely cut me out of her life without a single word of explanation. I was absolutely broken. For weeks, I couldn't eat properly. My grades started slipping. My friends tried to help, but nothing worked. Then one day, one of her friends transferred to my campus. She approached me after class and asked if we could talk at a nearby cafe. That's when she handed me a letter. My ex had written that she couldn't handle a long-distance relationship anymore, that she wanted to move on, and she wished me the best. That was it. No phone call, no real explanation, just a letter delivered through a mutual friend. I cried that entire night, but I decided to respect her decision and move forward with my life. About a year later, I attended a workshop for my major and met this girl. She was tomboyish, always in baggy clothes with her hair in a ponytail. We exchanged numbers to study together, and slowly we became really close friends. One day, she showed up in fitted clothes with her hair down, and I realized she was actually really beautiful. After almost a year of friendship, I finally worked up the courage to tell her how I felt. Her face lit up immediately. She told me she'd liked me for the longest time, but didn't want to make the first move because it wasn't really accepted in our culture. We dated, fell in love, got married, and now we have an amazing daughter. We've been married for 8 years, and I couldn't be happier. My wife is my best friend, my partner in everything. She made me realize what real love actually feels like. Last week, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a familiar voice said, "Hey, it's me. Can we meet for coffee? I really need to talk to you." It was my ex-girlfriend. After 10 years of complete silence, I was shocked but curious, so I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. When she walked in, she looked almost exactly like I remember. Same smile, same eyes. For a moment, it felt surreal, like I traveled back in time. She sat down and immediately started talking about the good old days, laughing about inside jokes I'd long forgotten. She talked about how much she missed our connection, how she'd been thinking about me all these years. Then her eyes drifted down to my left hand. She saw my wedding ring. Her entire expression changed. The smile vanished. She looked at me like I'd just betrayed her. "You're married?" she said, her voice sharp. "You have a wife?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I've been married for 8 years. We have a daughter." She stared at me in disbelief, then her face twisted with anger. "But you promised you'd wait for me. You said you'd wait forever. How could you just move on like that?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You ghosted me," I said, trying to stay calm. "You disappeared for 10 years. You sent me a letter saying you wanted to move on. What did you expect me to do?" She shook her head, visibly upset. "I thought you'd wait. I thought when I was ready you'd still be there. You lied to me." I just sat there, completely stunned. This woman had vanished from my life without a trace, ignored all my attempts to reach her, and now she was calling me a liar for not staying single for a decade. I stood up, put some money on the table, and looked at her one last time. "I did wait," I said quietly. "I waited for you to at least give me an explanation. You never did. I moved on because you told me to." Then I walked out and drove home to my wife and daughter. Some people really do live in their own reality. My ex-girlfriend came back.
Okay. I feel like that... I'm not sure what's going on in this story. Basically ghosting and all that. Let's move on to the
My spoiled sister took over my house while I was on vacation, and now she thinks she owns it. My sister was always the golden child growing up because she had health issues as a baby. She recovered completely, but my parents never stopped treating her special. She constantly took my things, and I had to accept it. When I turned 18, my parents kicked me out so they could expand her bedroom. They gave me 3 days. I spent years rebuilding, homeless shelters, working multiple jobs, eventually starting my own company, getting married, and buying a house in a nice neighborhood. Last month, my wife and I planned a 2-week trip to Portugal. The day before we left, my sister texted asking to water my plants while we were gone. I hesitated because of our history, but eventually agreed and left a key under the mat. Day 3 of our trip, I'm eating breakfast in Lisbon when my neighbor sends a photo. My sister's car is in my driveway with a full-size moving truck behind it and 2 guys unloading boxes. I immediately FaceTime her. She answers casually from my living room, explaining her apartment lease ended last week and she decided to move in temporarily. She'd be gone before I returned, so what's the problem? I told her to pack everything and leave immediately. She actually laughed at me, said I was being way too dramatic, and hung up. She ignored my next 5 calls. Next morning, my neighbor sent a full video walkthrough. She'd completely rearranged all my furniture, hung her own artwork on the walls, moved my wife's decorative items to the garage, and replaced our family photos with hers. But the worst part was her Instagram. She was posting multiple stories showing off her new place, giving full house tours to her friends. One video showed her in my kitchen saying, "My brother finally did something useful and let me crash here. Honestly, might just stay permanently. It's way nicer than my old place." Her friends were commenting things like, "You totally deserve this," and "Free rent queen." My wife was absolutely furious. I immediately called a locksmith company that does remote services. For $400, they sent someone that afternoon to change every lock. Front door, back door, garage, side gate. New keys went to my trusted neighbor. Then I called police non-emergency and explained someone was illegally occupying my home while I was out of the country. They sent an officer within the hour. My neighbor watched everything unfold and sent updates. The cop knocked and my sister answered, looking confused. The officer explained the homeowner reported unauthorized occupation. She tried showing the water plant's text as proof of permission. The cop looked at it and said that's absolutely not permission to move in with furniture. He gave her exactly 1 hour to remove all possessions or face criminal trespassing charges. She tried calling me multiple times while the cop stood there. I sent every call to voicemail. She tried calling my parents. They were at work and didn't answer. My neighbor said she completely broke down crying while frantically throwing things into boxes. Her friends who had helped her move in were now helping her move out, looking extremely annoyed. The moving truck had to return and reload everything. The whole ordeal took nearly 3 hours, and the officer waited the entire time. About 30 minutes after she left, my phone exploded with calls and texts. My parents were blowing up my phone. My mom left a screaming voicemail about how I humiliated my sister in front of all her friends and the police. My dad sent multiple texts saying I was cruel and heartless for kicking family onto the street. I didn't respond for hours. When I finally called back that evening, I stayed completely calm. I explained she broke into my house, moved in without real permission, rearranged everything, and posted about it publicly on social media. My mom interrupted saying I was exaggerating and family helps family in tough times. I told them if they felt so strongly about it, she could move in with them instead. Complete silence. Then my dad quietly said their house was too small and they didn't have room. I couldn't help myself. I said, that's really interesting because you somehow found room when you kicked me out at 18 and gave her my entire bedroom. They tried changing the subject immediately. I told them if she ever tried something like this again, I wouldn't hesitate to press full criminal charges. Then I hung up and blocked them both for the rest of our vacation. When we got home a week later, the house was mostly as we left it except for deep scratches on the hardwood floors from where she dragged furniture around. She'd also left every single plant completely dead because despite offering to water them, she never actually did it even once. My parents didn't speak to me for about 2 months. My sister had to move all her belongings into my parents' garage because she supposedly couldn't find an apartment in time. Last I heard from a family friend, they're constantly complaining that her stuff is taking up their entire garage, and they keep asking when she's finally moving out. I haven't spoken to any of them since. My spoiled sister.
I got exposed.
She is very, very, very spoiled.
I got exposed for dating a celebrity. I went to high school with a world-famous actress who we'll call Carla, not her real name. We were high school sweethearts and dated for years. We tried long distance when she went off to acting school, but it didn't work out, and we broke up with no hard feelings. Years passed and I moved on. I found a new girlfriend, Annabelle, who had no idea about me dating Carla, and all seemed well. I didn't hear much from Carla directly, but I was glad her career had turned out well. A few days ago was Annabelle and I's 1-year anniversary. I took her out to dinner, but partway through, Annabelle got really excited. She pointed to the door and said, "Look, Carla's here. I need to get her autograph." Sure enough, Carla was there with her mother. I knew her family still lived nearby, so this wasn't a huge surprise. Before Annabelle could go over, though, Carla and her mom spotted me and rushed over to say hi. Annabelle was stunned when Carla hugged me and asked how I was doing. We caught up for a few minutes, and eventually Annabelle got the courage to ask for an autograph. Then Carla left us to finish our date, and that was that. I thought everything went smoothly until I got home, and Annabelle was furious at me for never mentioning Carla. She said me dating a celebrity was a huge deal, and she couldn't believe I'd hidden it from her. I told her I didn't think it mattered, and she's famous enough that bragging about it feels like betraying Carla's privacy if it got out. Annabelle thinks that a lie of omission is still a lie. She's still upset at me, but I think history should remain history. I got exposed for...
Nothing's wrong with dating a celebrity. Follow your dreams, guys. Don't do stuff that you don't want to do.
My sweet husband wants to have an hour of alone time every night after our son goes to sleep, but he doesn't know that I know what he's up to. We had our first baby back in June. Everyone warned us about the sleepless nights and the chaos, but nothing really prepares you for it. Don't get me wrong, I love being a mom, but between the feeding schedule, the diaper changes, and the constant worry, my husband and I barely have time to breathe, let alone have a moment to ourselves. A few weeks ago, my husband's aunt came to visit. She brought our son the most beautiful, chunky knitted blanket. It was this gorgeous cream color with these thick, soft loops. The second I touched it, I was obsessed. I kept wrapping myself in it whenever I put the baby down. My husband would laugh and say, "That's not yours, you know," and I'd tell him, "I don't care. I want one exactly like this. I'm literally jealous of our 6-month-old right now." He'd just smile and shake his head. Then last Saturday happened. My husband said he needed to run some errands. Normal enough, except when I asked where he was going, he got all weird about it. Said it was just stuff and that he'd be back soon. I didn't think much of it until later that afternoon when I was putting laundry away. I found a plastic bag from the local craft store stuffed in the back of his closet. He never goes to craft stores, ever. I started getting suspicious, but I didn't say anything. That evening, he sat me down with this serious look on his face. My first thought was, oh no, what did I do? He said, "So, I've been thinking, I'd really like to have an hour of alone time every night after the baby goes to sleep." I blinked at him. Alone time? Yeah, just an hour. I won't leave the house or anything, but I need you to not disturb me unless it's a real emergency. You can text or call if you need me, but otherwise, I just need that time. Honestly, I felt a little hurt at first. Like, was he getting tired of us? Did he need space from me? But then I realized we've both been running on fumes. If he needed an hour to decompress, I couldn't blame him. I agreed. So that night, after I put our son down, my husband disappeared into the guest room. I sat on the couch alone, scrolling through my phone, trying not to feel weird about it. The next few nights were the same. Every evening, like clockwork, he'd kiss me goodnight and vanish for exactly 1 hour. I started getting more curious. What was he doing in there? Was he gaming? Watching shows without me? I felt a little left out, honestly. Then last night, everything changed. Around 8:30, I heard the baby start to fuss on the monitor. I grabbed my phone to check the video feed, ready to go in if he needed me. But when I opened the app, I froze. Our baby monitor has a wide-angle view. It shows the crib, but it also catches part of the room, including the corner by the closet. And sitting there, cross-legged on the floor in the dim glow of his phone screen, was my husband. He was surrounded by balls of chunky cream-colored yarn. I squinted at the screen. What was he doing? I turned the volume up. Okay, so you take the yarn and loop it over your finger like this, then pull it through. He was watching a YouTube tutorial on finger knitting. I sat there on the couch, hand over over my mouth, watching this man I married struggling to follow along with some cheerful woman teaching him how to knit. He kept messing up. I could see him frown, unravel a section, and start over. His fingers fumbled with a thick loop. At one point, he muttered, "How do people do this?" And I almost lost it. He was making me a blanket. This sweet, thoughtful man remembered me saying I wanted one. He went to the craft store, bought all the supplies, and has been spending his precious alone time, his 1 hour of peace after a long day, sitting on the floor of our son's nursery, teaching himself to knit, because he wanted to surprise me. I checked the monitor again this morning after he left for work. Hidden behind the rocking chair was a half-finished blanket. It's a little lumpy and uneven, but it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I haven't said a word to him. Every night now, I watch him on the monitor. He's gotten better. The stitches are more consistent. He's added about 8 inches since he started. Last night, he looked at his progress, smiled to himself, and whispered, "She's going to love us." And the thing is, I already do. He has no idea I know. And honestly, I'm going to let him keep thinking he's pulling off the surprise of the century. Because watching him pour his heart into this, watching him sacrifice his only free... My sweet husband wants to have an hour of alone time every...
That is so sweet. Who made this story.
Ooh, call from Zach.
What family tradition ruined your family? At every New Year's, my dad would make us all stand in a circle and tell one family secret. I thought it was just a weird tradition, kind of funny even. But last year, when it was my mom's turn, she looked straight at me and said, "You're not your father's son." The room froze, and that tradition ruined my family forever. What family tradition ruined your...
That was short. And, okay.
Single parents. What's your best dating story? I told Pete that I have a 6-year-old daughter when we were on our first date. He said he hated kids, so I knew this wasn't going to be a serious relationship. So Pete and I enjoyed just fooling around for a while on nights my daughter was at her dad's. But weeks became months and months became a year, and I realized I was really falling for him. I really hated that I was catching feelings because I knew there wasn't a future if he didn't like kids. I decided I was going to have to end things with him, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. One night we were hanging out at my place, and my ex came by unexpectedly with my daughter. She'd had a nightmare at his house and wanted me. I was trying to keep my daughter from really noticing Pete. I didn't want her bonding with someone who was just going to drop out of her life, but of course she was immediately curious about the new person. And before I could really do anything, Pete crouched down and said, "Hey Molly, I'm Pete. Want to see a magic trick?" And then he did a few simple tricks for her, pulling coins out from behind her ear and stuff like that. She was delighted, and I was stunned. He was clearly so good with kids. After my ex was gone and I got Molly in bed, I asked Pete when he learned magic. He said, "A few months ago. I figured if I was going to be with a woman with a kid, I should learn a thing or two about making them laugh." I had no idea he'd been taking our relationship that seriously for that long. It's 2 years later now, and I'm pretty sure Pete and Molly like each other more than either of them likes me. Single parents. What's your best dating story?
That's actually cool.
What's the weirdest thing you've been caught buying? I was buying whipped cream, rope, candles, and a cucumber. An old lady behind me raised one eyebrow and said, "You know Jesus sees you, right? I switched lanes. Still bought the cucumber. What's the weirdest thing you've been caught buying?
What?
What was the biggest betrayal of your life? I was walking through the park when I saw my dead dog playing fetch with a stranger. My heart stopped beating as I watched the golden retriever run after the tennis ball. Bailey had died 3 months ago while I was hospitalized, or at least that's what my roommate Claire told me. I approached slowly, my brain refusing to process what my eyes were seeing. "Excuse me," I said to the woman, "where did you get your dog?" She smiled brightly and said, "We adopted her 3 months ago from this woman on Facebook Marketplace." My knees nearly buckled as Bailey suddenly noticed me standing there. She went ballistic with recognition, launching herself at my legs while making desperate whimpering sounds that shattered something deep inside me. "Luna really likes you," the woman said, but her smile was fading as she watched Bailey desperately pawing at me. "Her name is Bailey," I said through tears streaming down my face. "She was my emotional support animal for 4 years until my roommate told me she died." The woman immediately took a step back, pulling Bailey's leash tighter against her body protectively. "This is my daughter's dog now, and we've had her for 3 months, so I don't know what you're trying to pull here." I pulled out my phone with shaking hands, showing her hundreds of photos of Bailey and me together spanning years. My roommate told me she died while I was in the hospital, and even gave me an urn with ashes in it that I've been talking to every night. The woman looked at the photos but kept backing away while Bailey strained against the leash, trying to reach me. "Look, I'm sorry, but Luna is part of our family now, and my daughter would be devastated if something happened to her." She started walking away quickly, but Bailey was fighting her every step, making heartbreaking sounds that echoed through the park. "Please just tell me who sold her to you," I begged while following them. "I have years of vet records proving she's mine, and I need to know what happened here." The woman finally stopped, tears in her own eyes now. "My daughter has severe anxiety. Luna is the only thing helping her sleep since her father left us." Then she pulled out her phone, showing me the Facebook conversation from 3 months ago. There was Claire's profile picture smiling back at me from the screen. The listing included photos of Bailey taken just days before my accident, with a detailed description about needing to rehome her dog due to moving overseas immediately. I took screenshots of everything while my hands trembled with rage so intense I could barely stay standing. The woman had given me her number, promising to meet tomorrow to discuss everything, but watching Bailey disappear again felt like losing her twice. The walk back to my apartment was a blur of fury and memories. Claire had called me in the hospital, describing that Bailey had eaten something toxic, that the emergency vet couldn't save her, that she'd had her cremated so I wouldn't have to deal with it while recovering from surgery. When I reached my building, I could hear her music coming from inside, the bass shaking the door. The door swung open, and there was Claire on the couch wearing a limited edition Travis Scott Astroworld hoodie that cost $400. She looked up casually, but when she saw my face, her entire expression transformed into pure panic. "You told me Bailey died," I said, my voice so steady it scared even me. "You gave me ashes and let let me grieve for 3 months while you sold her for concert tickets. Claire jumped up, knocking over her bong in the process, sending glass and water across the coffee table. How did you find out about this? She asked, which was basically a confession wrapped in a question. Because I just saw her in the park with the family you sold her to, I said, stepping closer. She recognized me immediately and tried to follow me home, but that little girl loves her now. Claire's face went through several expressions before landing on defiance, which shocked me completely. You were probably going to die in that hospital anyway, she said with a casualness that made my blood freeze. The doctor said you might not walk again, and I wasn't going to take care of a dog for a cripple. The word hung in the air between us. I did you a favor by finding her a family that could actually take care of her properly. I stood there stunned by the cruelty coming from someone I'd lived with for 2 years. You let me talk to those ashes every night, I whispered, my voice finally starting to break. You held me while I sobbed about losing her, and you knew exactly where she was the entire time. Claire shrugged like we were discussing missing yogurt from the fridge instead of stealing my emotional lifeline. The ashes were just kitty litter, she said, actually laughing at the confession. My stomach turned violently as I thought about the ceremonies I'd held, the tears I'd shed over cat litter in an urn. I kissed that urn goodbye every morning, I said, feeling bile rise in my throat. I brought it to therapy sessions to help me process the grief you invented. Claire rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic about something trivial. What was the biggest betrayal of your life? I was walking through.
I hate Claire, the person that stole the dog. Worst person ever.
When did you realize you'd broken a terrible cycle? When I broke a jar of tomato sauce last week. My fiancé and I had just come back from grocery shopping when I dropped it on the tile and it shattered everywhere. Red sauce, glass shards, it looked like a crime scene, and I froze. My whole body was braced for him to yell at me, insult me, and demand I clean it up and replace it immediately. But instead, he just laughed and said, I guess we're having buttered noodles instead. And then he checked my hands to make sure the glass hadn't cut me and ushered me out of the kitchen so he could clean it up for me. That was when I realized it. I grew up in a house with a father who exploded on me constantly, especially if I ever made a mess. I remember one time I dropped and spilled a gallon of milk, and he hit me across the head so hard it made my ears ring. And my mother grew up in a house just like that too. My grandfather was exactly the same. But as I stood in the living room watching my fiancé whistle while he cleaned up after me, I realized that he would never be that kind of father. Our children won't grow up terrified to make mistakes. I finally found a good man. Did you realize you'd broken a terrible cycle? What's something your parents did that backfired to them horribly? I was 15 when my mom forced me to get a job. She said she will kick me out when I turn 18, like what grandma did to her. I worked, believing that by the time I turned 18, I would have enough money saved up. But then I found out I had almost nothing. My mom had been taking half of my earnings to help pay the rent and for the food I ate at home. On my 18th birthday, I came home to find all my belongings stuffed in black trash bags left outside in the rain. I wasn't just mad that she kicked me out, but the fact she sold my 5-year-old dog on Craigslist too. I ended up living in shelters for months until my best friend's mother took me in. She took care of me until I graduated college. I eventually moved to a big city and worked my way up. At 28, I learned that my 55-year-old mother was now living in her car. After not seeing me for 10 years, she expected me to take her in. I told her she could find a job, reminding her she wasn't that old. She drained my late dad's life insurance money and didn't want to work. Told her to leave, then she threatened to burn my house down. Just told her she will rot in jail if she does that. She left. I felt nothing, not a single guilt or sadness. Maybe that's how she felt with me 10 years ago. Seeing her that way.
That mom is really nice.
This is how I tricked my brother.
My parents tried to make my wedding about my golden child sister. Their plan was
I bought my own house after everyone betrayed me. Now my sister, ex-wife, and parents are furious. I refuse to let them back in. 3 years ago, I was married to Madison, who thought my $65K mechanic salary made me a failure. She'd constantly show me houses online, not to motivate me, but to remind me how inadequate I was. Look at this kitchen, she'd say, shoving her phone in my face. Samantha's husband bought her granite countertops, but I guess I'll never have nice things. I worked overtime, picked up weekend jobs, even sold my motorcycle to save for a down payment. Nothing was ever enough. The final straw came when I surprised her with a vacation I'd been saving for. She spent the whole trip texting Evan from yoga class. When we got home, I found them together in our bed, not even ashamed. You're never here anywhere, Madison said. Evan actually pays attention to me. The divorce was ugly. She tried to take everything, claiming she sacrificed her career for our marriage. What career? She worked part-time at a boutique, but the real knife came from my sister Catherine. We've been close our whole lives. I helped raise her kids, fixed her car for free, loaned her money when her husband was unemployed. Madison told me everything, Catherine said. How you never bought her anything nice. Maybe if you'd been a better husband, she wouldn't have needed to find happiness elsewhere. My own sister was blaming me for being cheated on. My parents were no better. Marriage is work, Mom said. Maybe you both made mistakes. That's when I realized I was completely alone. So I liquidated everything and took a job on an oil rig in North Dakota. 18 months of hell, 14-hour shifts in freezing weather, living in a tiny trailer with 3 other guys who never showered. But the money was incredible. $120K a year, almost no expenses. I saved every penny, lived on ramen and protein bars. When I came back, I had nearly $200K cash and perfect credit from paying off all my debts. I started house hunting and saw it, 42 Maple Street, Madison's dream house. She'd shown me this exact house dozens of times over the years. Look at those hardwood floors, she'd sigh. I'd die for a kitchen like that. Asking price was $285K. I offered $300K cash, no inspection, close in 2 weeks. The seller couldn't say yes fast enough. I kept it quiet, but the realtor posted on Facebook, "Congratulations to our mystery cash buyer on 42 Maple Street." Within an hour, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Madison, OMG, who bought it? I'm dying to know. Catherine, saw someone bought your dream house. Crazy coincidence. I ignored them all. Moving day was perfect. Hired the best company, made sure the whole neighborhood could see the fancy truck. trucks. That weekend, I threw a housewarming party, invited everyone except my family. Of course, they showed up anyway. Madison walked in first, looking around in amazement. Then Catherine with her kids. Finally, my parents, carrying wine like they were invited guests. This place is incredible, Madison breathed, running her hands over the kitchen island. How did you afford it? She stopped when she saw me. Hello, Madison, I said calmly. Catherine recovered first. We heard about the party. This house is amazing. Oil rigs, I said simply. Turns out when you're not supporting a cheating wife, you can save quite a bit. Madison stepped forward, tears in her eyes. I made mistakes, but this was our dream house. You're right, I nodded. Right before you told me I'd never afford it. Right before you found someone who could. Security, I called to my friend Kai. Please escort these people out. We're family, Catherine protested. Family doesn't choose cheating wives over their own blood, I replied. As they were walking to the door, Madison turned back one last time. Don't you think you're being vindictive? I looked around at my beautiful home, the hardwood floors, the granite counters she'd dreamed about for years. This is just me.
My stepson thinks he is entitled to my money. I married my wife years ago and became the everyday grown-up in Teen's life. Teen came from my wife's past with Biodad, who hurt her by cheating. I tried hard at first to be close to Teen, too hard, honestly, and it pushed him away, so I backed off. Over time, we settled into a careful truce, polite, distant, not warm. My wife and I later had the three littles together. Teen doesn't pick on them, but he doesn't play with them either. He mostly acts like their heir, which makes the older two slip away when he's around. Money-wise, my wife and I made a plan long ago. I would save most of the college money for the three littles. She would save for Teen by herself, so he wouldn't end up with nothing if Biodad didn't help. It felt fair because everyone was covered. Last week, my wife showed Teen what she had saved for him. He smiled at first. Then he went to Biodad's for the weekend, came back and asked what the littles had. When he heard their total was bigger, he exploded. He said I was fake family, that I never cared, that I was heartless. My wife suggested taking some from the littles' youngest fund now and paying it back slowly. She told me it was my call. I keep thinking about how Teen worships Biodad, even after what happened to Mom. How he refused family therapy because I'm not his family yet. Now he calls me family when he wants money. My stepson thinks...
Okay, that stepson known as Teen is, I don't know.
My stepmom said, you're not.
My stepson thinks he...
Sorry.
My stepmom said, you're not invited to family events anymore, so I stopped inviting her to mine. The message came 3 days before Thanksgiving. Dad called to explain that Veronica felt I made her uncomfortable at family gatherings. Too many questions about her past. Too much attention on Dad. She needed space to bond with her biological children without my presence disrupting the family dynamic. You understand, right? He said, his voice small. I was 22. I'd been away at college for 4 years and visited exactly 6 times. But apparently that was too much. Sure, Dad, I understand perfectly. I stopped answering his calls after that. For 2 years, I focused on building my career in event planning. I worked 70-hour weeks, landed major corporate clients, and saved every penny. By 24, I launched my own company specializing in high-end weddings and galas. My client list included celebrities, politicians, and executives willing to pay 6 figures for perfection. Dad would text occasionally, updates about Veronica's kids getting into college, photos from holidays I wasn't in. Each message felt like evidence of the family I'd been edited out of. Then came the email that changed everything. A tech billionaire wanted me to plan his daughter's wedding. The budget was $2.3 million. The guest list included senators and Hollywood A-listers. If I pulled this off, it would launch me into the stratosphere of my industry. I spent 6 months making it flawless. Ice sculptures that never melted. A 7-tier cake that defied physics. Fireworks synchronized to a live orchestra. The photos went viral. The New York Times called it the wedding of the decade. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Within a year, I was planning events for royalty. Actual royalty. My face appeared in magazines. My company expanded to 3 cities. I bought a penthouse downtown and a house in the Hamptons. That's when Dad started calling again. I saw your article in Vogue, he said. I'm so proud of you. I let it go to voicemail. The messages became more frequent. Veronica's daughter was getting married. Could I help? Maybe offer some advice? A family discount? I ignored every single one. Then came my own wedding. Dimitri proposed on a yacht in the Mediterranean. He was a venture capitalist who understood ambition. We planned an intimate ceremony at a private villa in Tuscany. 50 guests. All people who'd actually been there for my journey. Dad somehow got my assistant's number. He called her directly, asking about +1s and whether Veronica's kids could attend. My assistant forwarded me the voicemail. I called him back for the first time in 3 years. I got your message, I said. Oh, thank God. I wasn't sure you'd... I'm not sending an invitation. Silence. But I'm your father, and Veronica needed space from me, remember? I'm just respecting her boundaries. That was years ago. She's changed. We've all changed. I'm sure you have, I said calmly. But my wedding is for people who wanted me at their family events, people who made space for me when it mattered. You're really going to exclude your own father? I'm just following the example you set. The wedding was perfect. Photos ran in 3 international magazines. Dad tried commenting on every post, but I'd blocked him months earlier. 6 months later, Veronica's daughter's wedding happened. According to mutual friends, it was a disaster. The photographer was late. The caterer brought the wrong menu. The cake collapsed. Dad called afterward, his voice broken. We needed you, he admitted. Veronica finally said it. She was jealous of you back then. Afraid you'd take my attention. She ruined everything. I know, I said. Will you ever forgive us? I thought about Thanksgiving spent alone. Christmases working double shifts to avoid the silence. Every family photo I'd been cropped out of. Maybe, I said. But you're still not invited to my events. Last month, I planned my company's 5th anniversary gala. 500 guests. Every major name in the industry. Dad sent flowers with a card. Congratulations on everything you've built without us. I left them them in the delivery box. Some spaces once created can't be uncreated.
Woo, now I am.
Smartest way you tested which family members actually loved you. I pretended to lose my memory after a car accident to see who would help me remember. Right before revealing I'd secretly inherited $67 million and remembered everything. My family only called when they needed.
You see this? I hate the sink salmon. Shut up.
Something. My sister Rachel for rent money. My brother Mike for business loans. My parents for their endless emergency. I was their personal bank, nothing more. The wake-up call came at my nephew's graduation. While I was getting drinks, I overheard my sister on the phone. Yeah, Alex is loaded, but he's so gullible. I just cry a little and he hands over whatever I need. It's like having a rich, stupid brother. They all laughed, including my parents. That night, I checked my bank statement. Over 5 years, I'd given them $340,000. Not one penny had been paid back. Not one genuine thank you. 2 weeks later, my great-uncle Henry's lawyer called. Henry had left me his entire fortune, $67 million from his shipping empire. He said you were the only family member who visited him without asking for money, the lawyer explained. I asked him to keep it confidential while I figured things out. That's when I had my idea. I staged a car accident. Nothing dangerous. Just a fender bender in a parking lot with my friend's help. But I went to the hospital claiming head trauma and memory loss. The doctors were confused by my symptoms, but I'd researched everything perfectly. Selective amnesia. I could remember basic functions, but not people, relationships, or my financial situation. I don't understand, I told my family from the hospital bed. Who are you people? Why do you keep saying you're my family? The reactions were instant and telling. Rachel immediately started reminding me about the $15,000 I'd promised her for a new car. You were so excited to help me, Alex. You said it was a gift. Mike brought fake loan documents. You invested in my restaurant, remember? We were partners. I just need another $30,000 to keep it running. My parents kept pushing me to sign papers. These are just medical forms, son, to help with your recovery. But my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who I barely knew, brought homemade soup every day. You helped my grandson with his college applications, she said. I don't expect you to remember, but kindness deserves kindness. My coworker, James, who I'd mentored for 2 years, took vacation days to sit with me. You don't remember me, but you changed my life. Now let me help you. Even my mailman, Carlos, stopped by. You always asked about my kids, man. Made my day better. Hope you get your memory back. For 3 months, I watched my family try to steal from someone they thought had brain damage while strangers showed genuine care. The final straw came when Rachel brought legal papers to make her my financial guardian. Since you can't remember how to manage money, I'll take care of everything for you. Time for the reveal. I called a family meeting at my house. Everyone came, probably thinking they'd finally get control of my assets. Rachel walked in with her guardianship papers. Mike brought more fake investment. Smartest way you tested which family members actually loved you. I pretended to lose my memory after... My ex cheated on me and laughed it off, saying I'd never find someone like her because I was out of her league. A year later, I got engaged to a model from my high school, and now she's having a meltdown over the photos. I'm 35 now, but this happened when I was 33. I work in IT, yeah, typical Reddit guy, and I'd been dating Lexi for about 8 months. She was stunning, like the kind of woman who stops traffic. I'm talking 5'10", blonde, the type who gets approached constantly. Honestly, I always felt like I was punching above my weight. I'm decent looking, keep in shape, but she was on another level. The whole relationship, I had this nagging feeling that she was settling. The breakup was brutal. I came home early from work one day because I had a migraine. I needed to check my email, but my laptop was dead, so I grabbed hers from the kitchen counter. That's when I saw the messages. 3 different guys, all recent. One from that morning. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through them. Flirty texts, plans to meet up. One guy asking when her boyfriend would be gone again. I felt physically sick. When she got home an hour later, I was still sitting there with her laptop open. She walked in, saw what I was looking at, and barely reacted. Just sighed, like I found out she forgot to buy milk or something. We need to talk, I said. She set down her purse and crossed her arms. Okay, let me save you the speech. Yeah, I've been seeing other people. I thought you knew that's how this worked. I was stunned. How what worked? Come on, she said, not even looking guilty. Be honest with yourself. You're lucky you had me at all. Look at you, then look at me. Did you really think I was going to be exclusive with someone like you? Those words destroyed me. Not just the cheating, the casualness of it, the way she said it like it was obvious, like I should have known my place. We broke up that night. She moved out by the end of the week, taking most of the good kitchen stuff with her. For months, I was a mess. I'd see couples on the street and think she was right. That's the best I'll ever do. My friends tried to build me up, but I couldn't shake it. Then about a year later, I'm doom scrolling Instagram at 2 a.m. because that's what you do when you can't sleep. And I see a suggested profile, Audrey. I hadn't thought about her in 15 years. We went to high school together. She was in my physics class junior year. Cute, funny, always drawing in the margins of her notebook. I remember she used to bring me coffee before our 8 a.m. class because I was always half asleep. Looking back, the signs were obvious that she liked me, but I was a clueless 17-year-old who thought girls like her didn't date guys like me. Her profile said she just moved back to town. On impulse, I sent her a DM. Holy shit, Audrey, it's me. Are you really back in the city? She responded within minutes. We messaged for hours. Turns out she'd been living in New York doing commercial modeling, campaigns for skincare brands, some fashion work, nothing huge, but steady. She'd moved home to be closer to her parents. We met for coffee 3 days later. The second I saw her walk into that cafe, something clicked. She'd always been pretty, but now she was, I don't know, confident, radiant. And she was looking at me like I was the most interesting person in the room. That coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a weekend hike with my dog. Within 2 months, we were inseparable. 6 months in, I proposed at Lincoln Park, the same place where she'd apparently worked up the courage to tell me she liked me back in sophomore year. I never knew. She told me after I put the ring on her finger, both of us crying and laughing. Audrey's Instagram had blown up over the years. Not influencer level, but 500K followers. Lots of professional photos from her modeling work. I posted our engagement photos, simple ones from the park, nothing fancy. She looked gorgeous in this cream-colored sundress, and I was just grinning like an idiot. 20 minutes later, someone banging on my apartment door. I open it and there's Lexi. Mascara running down her face, hair a mess, eyes wild. wild. We need to talk, she says, pushing past me into my living room. Lexi, what are you? I saw your post. I saw her. She spins around. Audrey, the model? You're marrying her? I just stared at her. I made a mistake, she says, and now she's crying harder. I was wrong, okay? We were supposed to end up together. I was young and stupid. We can fix this. For a year, I carried her words around like a weight. That I was lucky to have her. That I should have known my place. I looked at her standing in my apartment, falling apart, and I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just tired. Lexi, I said quietly, be honest with yourself. You're lucky you had me at all. Then I opened the door and waited. She left without another word. Audrey asked who it was when she came over later. I just kissed her and said, nobody important. My ex cheated on me.
How to build your dream video.
My sister blamed me for her disabled baby. My stepsister had a baby recently, but no one really cares about him since he has some special needs. Last week, I also had my first child, and I found it really interesting that when we were discharged, the hospital sent us home with a baby box. It was a cute little box that came with a bed and a mattress, along with some baby clothes and other essentials. So I made a post on Instagram showing it off. Later, my stepmom messaged me and told me I should take down the post. She said I was wrong for showing it off. She pointed out that her daughter, my stepsister, has been very upset after seeing my post. My stepsister did reach out, but her response was something like, wow, I had my son, and all the hospital sent me was some maxi pads and a bill, and she got upset. I didn't take down the post because I want to highlight the work all the charity is doing, especially for women in my area who may not be aware of the baby boxes and could really use it. She said it's unfair she has to struggle with a special needs baby while the other moms can talk about how being a new mom is awesome. My sister, Grandma put my son in the hospital. My husband and I have two kids, Violet aged 8 and Charlie aged 6. The other people in this story are my grandparents, specifically my step-grandmother, who my granddad married before I was born. I've never gotten along with my step-grandmother. She's very traditional and always bugged me to follow that path. I'm a bisexual feminist, so her telling me to stay home and do all the chores for my husband has never sat right with me. Anyway, my husband has a severe peanut allergy. It can be life-threatening. We knew there was a chance our kids might develop it, so we've avoided peanuts entirely. My step-grandmother thought this was silly. She thought it was better to expose kids to peanuts early and power through the allergy. I told her that's not how it worked, but I brushed it off. I never thought she'd get the chance to test her theory. A few years ago, though, we caught her giving Violet peanuts behind our back. Thankfully, she wasn't allergic, but I went ballistic on her. It took a few months for my family to convince me to forgive her, but I warned her she was on thin ice. Well, last week she came to visit and did it again with Charlie, but this time he was allergic. When we realized what was happening, we rushed him to the hospital. The doctors got it under control before any serious damage was done. Obviously, I was furious. I kicked her out of my house and have told her she's never allowed near us again. A lot of my family think I'm being too harsh and it's just a generation thing. Screw that. She nearly killed my son, and I never want to see her again.
That grandma is just rude.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Delta.
What's the smartest dumb decision you've ever seen? My roommate walked in with a brand new car. He'd spent his entire savings on it, and I thought it was the dumbest decision ever. He could barely pay rent. But that night, as we were driving, a drunk truck driver swerved straight into our lane. His dumb decision, the extra thick steel frame of that car, took the full hit. We called out alive. That dumb decision, it saved both our lives. What's the smartest dumb decision?
My fiancé told me drunk, I'm only with you until my ex gets out of prison. He's the love of my life. You're just a pathetic substitute keeping his bed warm. When I didn't react, she laughed and said, you're so pathetic you won't even fight for me. I didn't say anything because honestly, I was relieved. See, I'd been trying to figure out how to break up with Cassandra for months. She was gorgeous, sure, but completely exhausting. Everything was drama. Her job, her family, her friends, even ordering coffee became this elaborate performance. I felt like I was dating a tornado that looked really good in Instagram photos. The wedding planning had been a nightmare. Cassandra wanted everything perfect, which meant nothing was ever good enough. She'd fired 3 different vendors for not understanding her vision. She made our photographer reshoot our engagement photos 4 times because her smile didn't look authentic enough in the original. She spent 2 hours at cake tastings complaining that vanilla was too basic, but chocolate was too predictable. But we'd already sent 200 wedding invitations, already put $15,000 in deposits down on the venue, catering, flowers. My parents had flown in from Ohio twice for planning meetings and absolutely adored her. My mom kept talking about what beautiful grandchildren we'd have and had already started shopping for grandmother of the groom dresses. Breaking up would have been this whole nightmare of explanations, returned gifts, awkward conversations with vendors, disappointed family members asking what went wrong. I was basically trapped by logistics and other people's expectations. So when Cassandra drunkenly confessed at her sister's birthday party that she was using me as a placeholder boyfriend, I just nodded and said, okay. She expected me to yell, to beg, to make some dramatic scene. Instead, I calmly asked, when's he getting out? March, she slurred, looking completely confused by my reaction. Perfect. That gives us 3 months to plan an organized transition. Cassandra sobered up real quick. Wait, what are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and opened a new note. I'm making us a breakup timeline. We'll tell people we realize we're incompatible long term, but want to stay friends. We'll split all the wedding costs 50-50. Cancel everything together so it looks mutual. You can even keep the engagement ring. Consider it payment for 2 years of pretending to love me. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're not upset? Cassandra, you just solved my biggest problem. If anything, I should be thanking you for being honest. We literally shook hands that night like business partners closing a deal. She moved back to her apartment the next week, and we spent January methodically untangling our lives. Called vendors together, split the cancellation fees, even wrote a joint Facebook post about our amicable separation. My friends thought I was handling the breakup with incredible maturity. Cassandra's friends thought she was being super mature about everything too. Nobody suspected the truth. The funniest part, Cassandra started getting nervous as March approached. She kept asking if I was seeing anyone, if I missed her, if I thought we were making a mistake. I think she expected me to come crawling back, begging for another chance. Instead, I helped her pack the last of her stuff and wished her luck with the reunion. Her prison boyfriend got out on March 12th. According to mutual friends, he dumped her after exactly 2 weeks for some 22-year-old he'd been writing to while locked up. Apparently, Cassandra's wait for me story wasn't as unique as she thought. She called me crying that night.
What just happened? Let's go back. Sorry, guys. I don't know what just happened.
Take it. I know.
I ruined my best friend's proposal by calling 911. We were just walking and talking. It was supposed to be a chill catch-up between best friends, but then a white van pulled up beside us. Before I could even say weird, 2 masked men jumped out and grabbed my best friend, Emily. She screamed, and my heart stopped. I didn't wait. I grabbed my pepper spray, started screaming, kicked one of them in the shin, and yanked Emily back by her coat while calling 911 like a maniac. Turns out it was a proposal. Chris, her boyfriend of 4 years, thought it would be cinematic to stage a fake kidnapping that led to a surprise engagement with a van, masks, and actual fear. Emily had apparently once said she wanted a proposal, like in the movies, and Chris thought taking not the notebook. One of his buddies was screaming from the pepper spray. Chris was crying. Emily looked traumatized, and then the cops showed up, all in front of a crowd of people. Chris said I ruined the most important moment of his life. Emily told me she gets why I freaked out, but she wished I read the room. It was a van with masks in broad daylight. She was crying, but part of that screams romance. Now everyone's treating me like I overreacted, but I honestly thought she was being kidnapped in traffic. What else was I supposed to think? So yeah, I ruined their moment, but I thought I was saving her life. Ruined my best. My aunt wants me to parent her spoiled daughter. My mom has a best friend named Jenny, and I've always called her Aunt Jenny, even though we're not actually related. Jenny has a daughter named Ellie, who's my age, 16. Jenny thinks Ellie can never do anything wrong, even when it's obvious she has. Here are some examples. Ellie stole a hair ribbon from another girl. Aunt Jenny said the other girl lied because she was jealous of Ellie. Ellie didn't do her schoolwork and got an F. Aunt Jenny blamed the teacher, saying they were jealous too. Ellie's older sister, Annie, moved out and stopped talking to Ellie. Aunt Jenny pretends nothing happened and acts clueless. My mom knows how Jenny is, but never says anything directly. She just changes the subject when Jenny starts talking about Ellie. The problem happened at a baby shower. Jenny was there, and my mom mentioned that I was going camping with my friends soon. Jenny started hinting that she wanted Ellie to come with us. My mom was about to invite her, but before she could, I loudly said, "Oh, hell no!" Jenny looked upset, and when we got home, my mom said my trip was canceled. She eventually changed her mind, but she was still mad at me. She said I embarrassed Jenny and that I could have been more polite. Instead of being loud, I could have said something like, "Sorry, we don't have space for another person." My aunt wants me to parent her.
My sister wrote, "You were not invited to Christmas." Then I sent her a message. "Then you won't have a holiday either?" I'm Zoe, 29, and I've been the family ATM for years. Single, no kids, decent job in marketing. My sister Brenda has 3 kids and constantly needs help. This year was different. I secretly spent $6,000 on Christmas, rented a cabin, hired a chef, bought personalized gifts for everyone. The worst. I even covered Brenda's December rent without telling her. But let me back up because this goes deeper than just Christmas. For the past 3 years, I've been Brenda's silent financial savior. When her car broke down in June, I paid the $2,800 repair bill. When her oldest needed braces, I covered $4,500 worth of dentistry. When her husband lost his job last spring, I quietly transferred $800 every month to keep them afloat. I never asked for credit, never posted about it. I just helped because I thought that's what family does. Brenda's friends think she's this amazing mom who has it all figured out. They have no idea her perfect life is funded by her loser single sister who works in marketing. This Christmas was supposed to be my masterpiece. I'd been planning since October. The cabin had a stone fireplace, professional decorations, and a view of the lake. The chef was making prime rib, lobster mac and cheese, and homemade desserts. I bought each kid exactly what they'd whispered about wanting. The $300 art set for Daisy, the gaming headset for Gavin, the American Girl doll for Violet. I even hired a photographer to capture their Christmas morning faces. Then last week, Brenda texted, "Don't come to Christmas anymore. You've been difficult lately." Difficult? Because I said no when she wanted to take credit for the gifts I bought her kids. She literally asked me to rewrap everything and put her name on the tag so they'd think the presents came from her, not their aunt. When I said I wanted the kids to know who bought them, she called me selfish and attention-seeking. They uninvited me from the Christmas I planned and paid for. The audacity was breathtaking. She thought she could kick me out and still enjoy my $6,000 Christmas, like some kind of magical elf had arranged everything. So I went nuclear. I canceled the cabin reservation, lost the $1,200 deposit, but worth it. Called the chef, canceled, ate the $500 cancellation fee, Amazon deliveries, all stopped. The photographer, canceled. Then I got creative. I revoked the automatic rent payment that had been saving Brenda's ass for 8 months. I canceled the grocery delivery I'd scheduled for Christmas Eve, $400 worth of spiral ham, Nancy sides, and wine. I even called the local toy store and canceled the layaway items I'd been paying on since September. Another $800 in gifts. I texted back, then you won't have a holiday either. Christmas Eve, 5 p.m., my phone exploded like a bomb went off. First call was Brenda, voice shaking. Zoe, there's some mistake. The cabin rental people say our reservation was canceled. I let it ring. Then Carly, my other sister. What's going on? Brenda's having a meltdown. The kids are asking where all the presents are. Then Brenda again, crying now. Please, Zoe, the kids are so disappointed. Can't we work this out? By 7 p.m., my mom was calling. Zoe, Elizabeth, fix this right now. Those children don't deserve this. But here's what really happened. They all showed up at Brenda's house expecting the Hallmark Christmas I created, even though they told me to stay away. No cabin, no chef, no presents, no fancy dinner. Just 3 adults and 5 kids sitting in a living room with a half-decorated tree and no land. Brenda tried to explain to her kids why Christmas was suddenly canceled. But how do you tell a 7-year-old that Aunt Zoe took that Christmas because Mommy was mean? The kids were crying. Brenda was hyperventilating. Even my mom, who usually takes Brenda's side in everything, started questioning what really happened. That's when the truth came out. Brenda finally had to admit she'd been taking credit for gifts I bought, that I'd been covering her rent, that the magical Christmas they expected was entirely funded by the sister she'd kicked out. My mom called me back at 9 p.m. Her voice completely different. Zoe, honey, I had no idea. Brenda told us a very different story. But here's the thing. They ruined it first when they decided I wasn't family enough to attend the holiday I created. My sister wrote, you were not.
I'm getting revenge on my abusive dad. My dad cheated on my mom when I was 6, so he's been a piece of crap for as long as I've known him. He married his affair partner, and Mom replaced him with a much better stepdaughter. They split custody, but Mom was definitely the favorite. Mom got a job abroad when I started high school, so I lived full-time with my dad for a few years as a teen. They were the worst years of my life. Dad treated me like an inconvenience and made it clear he didn't see me as part of his family. Family events never included me. I was left home for holidays, wasn't allowed to hang out with friends, and couldn't leave the house without his permission. He even paid a neighbor to spy on me when he wasn't around. When I was 16, I finally snapped. I told him I hated him and hated my life. Dad called me spoiled and entitled, then kicked me out. Luckily, a friend took me, but I didn't speak to my dad again for years. Life went on. I kept in touch with my half-brother, but Dad was radio silent. I went to college, fell in love, and got engaged. I didn't even tell my dad that I'd gotten engaged. Well, he found out somehow and sent me a message about how excited he was to be part of my wedding. He said how sorry he was for kicking me out and how he wants to fulfill his lifelong dream of walking me down the aisle. Hell will freeze over before I have that man at my wedding. I told him my wedding is family only, which he isn't, and blocked him. My brother says my dad's really upset, but I don't care. After how he treated me, this feels like some much-deserved revenge. I'm getting revenge on my abusive dad. My dad cheated.
She kicked out my sister, so I kicked her out. When my mom died 3 years ago, it gutted us. She was the glue of the family, and when cancer took her, everything just fell apart. But before she passed, she made sure of one thing. The family home, the one we grew up in, was left to me, not to my dad, not to both of us, just me. It had been in her family for generations, and she trusted me to keep it safe. My little sister, Chloe, got our mom's old cabin by the lake. My dad got nothing, and that wasn't an accident. Toward the end of Mom's illness, Dad started acting off, distant, always out. Chloe was 13 back then, and I was 21, trying to keep everything from falling apart. 6 months after the funeral, Dad showed up with a new woman, Tasha. She was barely 30, dressed like she was always headed to brunch, and moved into the house without even asking me. Within a week, she was redecorating. The family photos, gone. Pictures of Mom, vacations, holidays, Chloe's 8th grade graduation, all replaced by abstract art and beige throw pillows. It was like she wanted to erase us. Chloe started avoiding the living room altogether. She moved everything sentimental into her bedroom until it looked like a museum to our mom. Tasha didn't care. She strutted around like she was queen of the castle, even though she was living in my house rent-free. Dad didn't say a word, just smiled like a lovesick teenager. Then last month, they dropped the bomb. They're having a baby. Twins, actually. Chloe shut down. She locked herself in her room and wouldn't come out, didn't eat, barely slept. I had to drive over, talk her out, and sit with her for hours until she stopped shaking. I begged Dad to talk to her, but he said she was just being over-dramatic and that she'd adjust. For Chloe's 16th birthday last week, she just wanted a sleepover. 8 girls, movies, snacks, laughter. Nothing crazy. Dad even said it was fine. He and Tasha were going away for the weekend anyway. They got back around 10 a.m. the next morning and found the girls still asleep on couches and blankets, makeup wipes on the table, empty pizza boxes. Just normal teenage chaos. Tasha lost her mind. She stormed into the living room screaming at Chloe in front of everyone, called her disrespectful, said she was just like my mom, too emotional, always causing drama. Then she said the words I'll never forget, you're a burden to your father. Then, while Chloe stood there red-eyed and humiliated, Tasha packed her bag and called our Aunt Mel to come get her. Dad didn't say a word, just stood in the hallway watching it happen. That night, Chloe called me sobbing. She kept asking, what did I do wrong? I drove to Aunt Mel's house and found her curled up on the couch, clutching one of Mom's old sweatshirts. It broke me. The next morning, I took Chloe's spare key and walked into the house. Tasha was eating yogurt at the kitchen counter like nothing had happened. She actually had the nerve to ask what I was doing there. I told her and my dad they had 7 days to get out. She laughed. You can't kick us out of our own home. That's when I pulled out the deed. Her smile vanished. You're lying. Nope, this house is mine. Mom left it to me and the title's in my name. Dad stumbled in, bleary-eyed. You're being cruel. She's pregnant. Where's she supposed to go? I looked straight at him. Maybe you should have asked that before your wife kicked your daughter out of her own home. Tasha started crying, saying she was 7 months pregnant and homeless. I reminded her Chloe was 16, still grieving, and had been treated like garbage in her own house. That her burden line, unforgivable. Dad called me a selfish brat and said he was going to fight Mom's will in court. Go ahead, I said. Mom's side of the family already has a lawyer on speed dial. They were gone by the end of the week, moved into some rental across town. Chloe's back now. Her room's still a bit of a time capsule, but she's smiling more, laughing again. We're rebuilding, slowly. I don't feel guilty. I protected my sister the way our dad.
Okay. I'm gonna end this around 12:25. I will tell you when that is. I'm so tired right now.
My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive, because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that, because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive, because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that, because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive, because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that, because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive, because because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey to heal. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had called in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive, because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that, because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had called in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive, because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that, because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had called in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive, because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that, because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had called in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive, because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that, because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had called in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive, because my mom lives far out the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she's in. She told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because I don't think my mom should be blamed for what happened. Last night, things got worse. My wife saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom and asked me again to cut her off. I explained why I couldn't do that, but I understand how much pain she told me she would divorce me if I kept talking to my mom. My mom killed my daughter. Our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool. My mom had left her alone for just 2 minutes, which we know because it was all caught on the security cameras. A fire alarm went off inside the house, so my mom rushed in to check if there was a fire. Thankfully, there wasn't, but when she got back outside, she found our daughter in the pool. Our daughter had crawled in while my mom was inside. My mom tried very hard to save her by doing CPR, but she couldn't. It also took 30 minutes for the emergency team to arrive because my mom lives far out in the country. My wife and I were heartbroken, and it's been a long, slow journey. We recently started going to grief therapy to help us cope. During one session, my wife said that it might help her if I stopped talking to my mom. I told her I couldn't do that because